Okay, under app service, we actually worked with Azure App Service, which is a multi-tenant cloud, okay, multi-tenant services, okay, or the PaaS services, which we can say. So under Azure App Services, we learned about Logic App, API app, mobile app. Okay, we implemented each and every application with these particular app service, right? So, and that's those particular app services were having sort of consumption plan and different types of plans we had, usage based plans, everything. Okay, and this particular Azure app service, like this particular Azure app service, what they do is like they actually share the infra below it. Okay, and if you create a mobile app right now using this Azure app service, which we created earlier, it would create your mobile app in, or it will host your mobile app in a server where exactly other particular tenants have also hosted their apps. Okay, but that would be short of shared kind of infra to each and every apps which you wanna create with Azure App Service. But some customers won't want this kind of infra where they would get confused of like my data can get mingled with others guy data, or my request can be pushed onto others guys request. So what they want is like if their application is little sensitive, they what they would do is like they would actually create their app using app service environment. So it has the same features of Azure App Service, or the services which are there in Azure App Service, but it's whatever you host, it actually goes and sits in an isolated environment. Okay, and as we discussed in if you go a few classes before, where we discussed like how exactly app service, when you roll out a create a logic app or API app or mobile app, how exactly your request goes, and actually it creates up your app services in certain infra. If you have small sized instances or medium sized instances, everything would be part of certain application pools. Okay, according to your requirement or scaling like if you are scaling or doing something, then actually they actually shift into other pools. Okay, so they will be in a sort of dedicated isolated pool if you select a app service environment, and if it would be a shared pool if it would be a Azure App Service. And there's another new concept of other than this Azure App Service, which is a PaaS and app service environment. It's also PaaS. Okay, and certainly like what I call is sort of IaaS stuff for users, that is called as a Azure Stack. So what Azure Stack would do is like it would actually create an Azure private stamp in your on-premise DC. Okay, you can host your on-premise DC and your Azure Stack simultaneously, and you can actually host your application onto Azure, which is at your on-premise. So there are certain government bodies are there who doesn't want to put their data or applications running on a public clouds or somewhere. Okay, so they are.
The like
Mhm.
this would be costly, right? In the ascending order, that multi-tenant
Yeah,
we.
yeah, obvious.
So, sir, okay.
Obvious that would be costly. Okay, and but you're getting a dedicated compute power.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, so that's what
Correct.
matters. And secret, even if someone is trying to tamper your data, but he can't be, because it would be inside your on-premise. Until unless Azure
Okay.
is safer in any way, but if you want to, if your government doesn't want your data to cross national boundaries and go and sit in somewhere in Pakistan or in some other place,
Hmm.
you actually can have define this Azure Stack, or can have your Azure Stack stamps in your PCs. Okay, and
Okay.
it's there already for China government. They have done this, and we have
Okay.
US as well. Government also, this has been implemented. Okay, so we have managed our app services via, I mean, these all techniques: CLI, REST APIs, templates, or Azure portal. Okay, and but like CLI we did via Kudu stuff. Okay, we were having that console access, and we would have selected partial as well for doing changes like putting some files into Kudu, where actually your Azure websites or app service can take up the files and host it and run that particular application sort of stuff. Okay, the same stuff, what you can do, instead of you going and clicking into the app service, this particular advanced tools tab, you can click console. So once you click console, you will have access to the console access of Kudu, and you can actually file transfer. You can do file transfers. You can copy files. You can manipulate the www root folder where your application is getting hosted. or even you can actually take up a repo which is or a project which is actually hosted on a Git, okay, by initializing or running Git commands, and it totally supports this particular console supports all the Git commands, and those Git commandlets will be are automatically updated. You doesn't need to bother about updating them because this is a PaaS service. Okay, you what you can do is
So
like you can yeah.
so this Git is like a independent of thing, right? It's GitHub. It's like it's different thing, right? Git is Microsoft.
No, no, no. I mean, Git is a command. It's used for GitHub.
No, no, I know, I understand. Okay,
It's used for GitHub, which is a public repo,
okay,
and it's also used
okay,
for Git local Git. Okay,
okay,
so Git is a common command. So Git is a common command. Okay, and whatever repo you give, right? See, GitHub is a public repo. If you want your own local repo of GitHub, you will have your local Git. Okay.
okay,
Yeah, that's a difference. So, but the Git commands are the same. Okay, it ultimately triggers a command to any of the GitHub repo. That's it, right? Okay. So, if you have certain your code application is running on, I mean, hosted on a source control, GitHub or a local Git, then you can actually run the commands and clone that particular application and put onto this particular www root folder, and it would run your applications. You doesn't need to actually have a Visual Studio, clone it there, and then check into this particular Azure App Service and then start it or some other stuff. You it doesn't need to do that. You can do it directly as well. Okay. And this is what locking of resources I talk about, like where I mean there may be a possibility like you may accidentally delete certain resources, even if you're admin, like sometimes manual interventions causes issues, right? So in order to avoid those kind of issues, what you can do is like you can actually set up a lock on each and every your production resources, so which will help in accidental deletes. Okay, what you can do is like if you are two admins and one admin can create a lock. Okay, once he create a lock, if I'm correct, he should be able to delete that particular lock. Okay, so there can be two admins, one with a little higher admin permissions, and then would be a co-admin who can actually managing all the stuff. So in co-admin, if he is wrongly going and trying to delete the stuff, it will not delete because the lock is applied onto that particular resources. So in order to delete resources, you need to first remove the lock, so which can be done with the higher admin, which we have. Got it? So this lock also works on RBAC. Okay. So the resources, putting locks, it won't actually avoid you from reading the resources. You can read the resources, but you can't delete the resources. And you can perform or add certain sort of custom domains on top of your app service. Okay, so this app service is a C# app service, Azure Websites.net. So you can see that for every public IP you'll have a host name. So this host name would be added into Azure DNS. Okay, so c#.azurewebsites.net. If you want to add a custom DNS name, right, you can add a host name. Okay, you can put it another name. I mean, behind it would be C#, but you doesn't want to expose what is the name of your Azure websites to the public. What you can do is like you can actually put some other name. Okay, add another host name. Okay, so whenever you type that particular host name, it would resolve this, or whenever you type the c#azure website.net, it will also resolve this particular app service. Okay, so host name would be sort of C record. What is that? What we say C name to your DNS mapping in Azure DNS. So once if you create a custom domains from here, it would be if you add a host name here, it would be added into Azure DNS. But if you want to purchase a domain, you can actually purchase a domain name from Azure itself or from other vendors as well. Okay, you have feasibility of that as well. App service, I mean, supports a lot of different stuff as well. So with app service, you can actually add extensions as well. So these extensions can be, you can add any of the extensions, like for easy, like what I'll do is like, let's go and check one certain. Allow into my subscription. So I'll see whether we have our app services. A lot of Azure app services we have, right? We have function app. Okay, let's go to this particular logic app and let's see whether we have an extension option for this. We should have extensions. So extensions would give you sort of, once you create your application, you can actually add extensions at any moment of time. Okay, you doesn't need to bother about it. Like while creating, if you forgot, will not be in trouble. Okay, we have this Azure web app, right? So for sure, for a web app we have. I'm not sure about logic app, but web app we should have an extension. Okay, one such extensions we have already added is application insights. We see that we have extensions. Yes. So the extensions would be like this. Okay, so if you go to extensions, and it would show up whatever extensions are supported by this particular. I mean, if it's there already, or whatever available or extensions for this particular Azure web app. It will populate, and you can add like application insights or Azure Cosmos DB stuff, anything. And if you want to add certain sort of malware or something, or if you want the event viewer, or because you can't actually log into this particular app service and check out the details, right? So what you can do is like you can check out the event details, okay, in an event viewer, which you actually have if you have a physical server, right? So if your application is running, if it generates certain events, okay, so those event logs would be used for debugging your stuff. So you can get those event viewer logs as well. Okay, so that's a part of extensions here. And a lot of third-party extensions also there. So after you create, also if you want to host a PHP application and it has certain tightly application with tightly coupled with PHP or Python need to be installed on it, yeah, you can go and add it as an extension. It would actually create those particular it would carry out the installation by its own. Okay, so that's our those are benefits of your having extensions. So after we talk about extensions, let's go ahead with the deployment options, which we have already done. So we did FTP deploy, we did web deploy using Visual Studio. FTP we did via FileZilla, and we actually took out, this is a cool option. We took code from you can actually put your code in OneDrive or Dropbox, and you can take the code. Okay, that's a little bit pretty easy. You can try that. And I mean, you can have your files checked into OneDrive or Dropbox, and you will take files. I mean, OneDrive or Dropbox is not a sort of source control, but it's a kind of file repo. You can have your successful build file repo in your OneDrive or Dropbox, and you can take those successful build files to your Azure websites or your app service. Okay. And source control or continuous deployment, which we used are like Visual Studio Online, Local Git, and GitHub, and Bitbucket as well. So Bitbucket you can also try. Okay, and let me know if you face any issues while integrating with Bitbucket or carrying out deployment with Bitbucket. Okay. And we'll be talking about data services and Azure services, Azure, where we have. I mean, these are the proper data services which are available right now. The SQL databases. So it's like it's a VM on which SQL Server would be installed on. Okay, so which we have on Azure, and we have SQL Data Warehouse, and it's scaled out SQL Server RDBs which are installed on Azure, and which can tackle a lot of workloads as well. and they can have millions of, not millions or lakhs of DBs underneath it. So we have document DB. We talked about Azure Cosmos DB, right? So document DB is one of the previous version of Azure Cosmos DB. Okay, and it's a NoSQL uh, open source stuff, like NoSQL stuff only, NoSQL database service from Microsoft, not open source. Okay, so if you want to create a document DB repo or storage, you need to create a Azure Cosmos DB, and then you can opt out document DB for that. And you have something called as table storage, which we worked storage sections, and you have Redis cache. It's a cache server, okay, which would be used for every a lot of applications which are hosted on Azure. And Redis cache actually works inside Azure inside Azure premise itself, okay. And this particular cache you can actually put on to in front of any web app or some web application, so that, or any particular client rendering machines, or before in locations, so that whenever a client access something, you can have a sort of CDN stuff and cache those particular images, everything in Redis cache. Or if you want to store some certain data very, and which need to be fetched very rapidly or very frequently, you can put those data in Redis cache. And you have data factory and data lake, which are very much related to HD insights and sort of big data stuff. Okay, so data factory would can collect a lot of different types of data. Okay, and it works on a lot of integration, and the data which actually moves inside HD insight, or would be processed by HD insight. Data lake is a repository of this particular large amount of data which would be collected from data factory. Okay, and we'll discuss more on this when we talk about HD insight. And
Hey, I see Azure table somewhere. Is it
yeah,
similar to the? Is it the same or table storage, or it's a different stuff?
Azure table, yeah, it's the same, man. Same. Azure
Okay.
table or storage table is same.
Okay.
Yeah. Overview of data services in Azure. So these are like virtual machines. Like you have SQL, right? You have created a
Mhm.
SQL on virtual machine. So that's a infrastructure as a service kind of service which is available on Azure. So if you actually go and opt something called Azure SQL DB database, which is available on Azure, okay, and you doesn't need to spin up a VM to actually run a Azure SQL, okay. So
Right.
that's option is like you'll have a directly Azure SQL database created for you, okay. Um, so even if I have this for MySQL as well. So from it now has support with MySQL as well. Azure SQL, or let me search as SQL Azure. Where is that one? SQL database. Yeah, maybe they have changed the name.
You just type SQL Server. I think it'll show.
It's a blank database. SQL Server, it should not be. I mean, like
No, if you type SQL Server, I think I did that way actually.
but it would give you that IaaS flavor of it, right? Okay, this one only. So you have, I know that SQL databases underneath would be underneath to SQL Server, okay. But I have option of creating a SQL database as well. Okay, maybe you need to have at least one SQL Server, and then create a SQL databases underneath them. Okay, so once you have SQL Server, we have a default one particular database underneath the whole. Okay, what you can do is like you can push whatever stuff you do with your on-premise SQL Server. You can do this. You just need to add firewall. Okay, firewall which says that if you have your on-premise firewall, corporate firewall, it would block before you access this particular SQL Server. But if you are accessing at home, it won't block. but the corporate VPN they would actually block. Okay, so you need to add that allow firewall, okay, option in your SQL Server once you spin it up, and then you're ready to go. You can actually you run up your transact SQL queries on top of it, and then you can create tables and do the same stuff what you do with SQL Server at on-prem. You can use that SSMS SQL Server Management Studio as well with this particular PaaS service SQL Server. Okay, and you are not maintaining any VM for this. It's given as a PaaS service to you.
Pass, yeah.
Yeah. So that is Azure SQL Database or SQL Server, which we are talking about. And then we have other PaaS database management systems are like, yeah, we have DocDBs and Cosmos DBs, everything, and we have Azure Storage as well, right? Those sort
Mhm.
of stuff. I mean, just these are just categorizing them. Okay, and so these are sort of like this software as a service. At present, we don't have something like that with SQL service. Okay, we have PaaS services with respect to which is called as Azure SQL Server or SQL databases. Okay, so these are all virtualized databases running on running on a shared infra. Okay, and but if you want a dedicated one, you would Jagan had spun up a SQL Server VM. So that's a dedicated service, which is infrastructure as a service. And if you want a sort of complete virtual SQL Server farm or SQL Server, what do you say is that SQL Server warehouse sort of stuff, yeah, you can have that. Okay, and like if you want to see a physical or sort of physical SQL server, you are hosting something, okay, so which you have at your on-prem. Okay, so these two grayed out is sort of your on-premise sort of stuff, and you require a lot of higher administration on it. But when it comes to Azure, which are showed in blue stuff, okay, and you actually they are off-premise or onto Azure. So these are certain parameters like which actually differs PaaS services of Azure SQL databases and SQL Server in a VM. Okay, and like with Azure SQL databases, which is a PaaS services, you have a minimized control over. Because it's a PaaS service, you don't have control over completely logging into that particular VM and doing some certain changes or getting a backpack file or sort of stuff. Maybe backpack file is supported right now with the PaaS services. Okay, and overhead compared with the on-premises, yeah, it's minimized, and no need of infra support because infra because the patch updates everything would be done by Azure. Okay, and cost are, yeah, minimized, yeah, because it's on shared structure, and provision time is minimized, yeah, because it doesn't need to already provisioned VMs will be there where exactly you'll get a connection. Okay, but here you need to spin up a VM, install a SQL server on it, on the for this IaaS kind of solutions. You don't have certain parity kind of parity kind of like with the database, right, like if you want to maintain data consistency of your, or you are setting up sort of disaster recovery kind of DR setups, parity is has utmost importance there. Okay, in case of your data goes corrupts, and parity gonna help you there. Okay, and which is not supported with Azure SQL databases, but it's are supported on IaaS stuff. And virtual network support, no, it's available in IaaS. High availability and scalability, yeah, both are yes, because I mean this is on a shared, but it's running on Azure. Okay, so same. So for if you create Azure SQL database, it would be bound to a Azure subscription and to a resource group, and then you'll have a SQL database servers. Underneath that SQL database server, you have a master database, and you'll be having a isolated user databases. Okay, so master database would be have parity or would have details about all these isolated user databases, and these are the databases which you actually gonna run. And since Azure SQL Database is a shared one, it will have a single SQL database server running on them as a, or master a single master database. So when it comes to the service tiers of the SQL Server, there are three tiers: basic, standard, and premium. If you account to the there, I mean this particular service tiers, whatever you select, you'll get the performance getting increased from basic to premium. Okay, and basic do have a lot of limitations, but with the standard and premium you have almost all features, or like DR kind of setup, or everything is supported with them. Okay, with the standard and premium stuff, you can't I hope you can't do sort of transactional checking or something. There's a term, okay, which is actually can't be run on a basic VM, basic type. If you select, you can't do that, but with standard and premium you can do that. Okay, so all of these particular three tiers would give you 99.99% of SLAs and hourly billing costs. It's not minute billing sort of stuff. And premium is it's suitable for very high transactional and supercritical loads. Okay, and I hope it's possible to change your service tiers at any moment. Okay, you can do it runtime. And one more thing, like every architect or person who actually want to migrate their on-premise SQL server to Azure SQL databases, they need to know this particular term called as DTU, or Data Transactional Unit. So this DTU term had been introduced almost a year back, and from now, so DTU is a measure of SQL resources. Okay, and the measure is basing upon a CPU, memory, and the input-output values of databases. Okay, so the more the DTUs are, the number in the number DTU number, so the more premium, or the more performant oriented those particular databases, SQL databases would be. Okay, so what you're gonna do is, like, if you want to take up your on-premise SQL server to your Azure, or convert into your Azure SQL databases. So what you need to do is, like, when you run your SQL server on premise, you actually get a package called as DAC pack. Okay, and you need to run this particular DAC pack file in that particular SQL server VM. Okay, when you run that DAC pack file, it actually gets all the statistics, or it would give you the DTU. Okay, the figure of DTU, according to that, how much CPU it's consuming, memory, and what is the input output egress which is coming, or transactions are coming. Okay, according to that, it will calculate the DTU, and it would be easy. If you have DTU, you can actually go to Azure and you can procure a Azure SQL database, and then you're done. You doesn't need to bother about checking that if I don't take up if I don't take a premium tag, whether my performance would go down or not. Okay, so using DTUs, you can actually um, get your actual operations which are happening on your local on-prem databases, and then you can go and select S1. S1 is a sort of, or S3 sort of a standard size of storage. Okay, because you may not be having a requirement of performance, or your DTU didn't cross 100. Okay, so you can go and opt Azure SQL Database which is under 100 DTUs. There's something called as elastic DTU as well. Okay, which is a measure across set of databases. Okay, and like, if you don't have a single databases, you have pool of databases, you'll have this eDTU calculation. Okay, and you can do this eDTUs, and carry out provision your Azure SQL databases on Azure. So this is a sort of table which I got from Google. You can go through this, okay, which says the current support each and every plan, SQL service plan gives, SQL database service plan gives you, whether it's basic, standard, or premium. You can provision Azure SQL databases. Okay, so for that, what you can do is, like, while creating a database, it would ask you for creating a server as well. You can go create and a SQL server as well. Okay, once you create a SQL server, you can give the admin login credentials, location, each and everything, and you'll be done. I'll not be creating any SQL database right now in this particular demo, but you guys can carry out, and if you want to run certain SQL activities, or you want to create certain tables and then fetch them and show up in UI or sort of stuff, yeah, you can carry out. And let me know if you face any issues. Let me know. I can help you out.